The testing. Uh, I am head of the lab, Bangalore Reference Lab, and glad to give you an introduction to this topic. So let me begin with two case scenarios. These are all fictional cases. So one case where a 35-year-old male, he was diagnosed to have a psoriatic arthritis. He was on methotrexate and he was not feeling too comfortable with the drugs as well as his condition. So he decided to consult a holistic medicine specialist, and who said that please do a test for food sensitivity. He got a report and a multi-page report, and which told him to avoid cow's milk, dairy products, wheat, eggs, etc. Another case was a 4-year-old child who had eczematous lesions on both her hands. She was a diagnosed case of atopic dermatitis. She was asked to control the condition with topical corticosteroids by her dermatologist. But however, the mother was not too happy using steroids for a long time, so she went and met a holistic expert who advised the child to undergo a food allergy testing. And based on that report, she was asked to avoid eggs. So, what is all this food allergy, food sensitivity, food intolerance? So, these are three terminologies which are used interchangeably and has caused a lot of confusion amongst patients. So, to give you a little more clarity, when the body goes into an undergoes adverse health reaction due to a specific immune response occurring reproducibly on exposure to a given food, it is known as food allergy. Usually, when the body, finds there's a harmful substance in the body and then produces antibodies in response to this, then it is called a food allergy. Food intolerance is it's just a non-immunological adverse reaction to food, and it can be due to a number of deficiency of enzymes or a lack of a metabolic effect. So these are non-immunologic and usually are seen in lactase deficiency, dietary protein-induced enterocolitis syndromes, eosinophilic gastrointestinal disease, etc. Food sensitivity is a non-specific term. Any it includes any symptom perceived to be related to food, and it has a wide range of usage and interpretation. So, when we say indigestion or intolerance or sensitivity, there may be a varied presentation. It could range from allergic rhinitis symptoms to GI symptoms per se, like bloating, belching, then constipation, all of that, and skin breakouts, blisters, urticarial rashes, sneezing. There could be also weight gain, fluid retention, some mood swings, depression, asthma kind of a picture, hypertension, etc. So you may be wondering that all of us may be having some kind of a food intolerance or something, because at one point of time or the other we would have experienced one of these symptoms. So whenever we are testing for food sensitivity, there are two immunoglobulins that we normally look at. One is IgE levels and one is IgG levels. So IgE levels in food, there are specific food specific screening panels, and they can be either it can be detected by the total IgE or specific food specific IgE. Now, there are a whole lot of foods that you can test for. You needn't test for each and every food, but each and every component. So, by taking a medical history, doing a physical examination, and doing some other tests like skin prick testing and oral food challenges, you can decide which food specific screening panel that you need to do. So, like I said, total IgE is the traditional method which has a poor specificity, and a specific IgE has a higher specificity. So skin prick test is a very time consuming process. It's a very old process and it is just about 50% accurate, where multiple punctures are made on the exposed parts of the body, on the back, etc., and allergens are injected, and to see for the kind of reaction the patient produces. So this is not a very popular test because it is affected by antihistamine usage, and usually the results, even if they come in 30-40 minutes, but some of the allergens will come only after a few weeks, and skin is swollen, itchy, and bumpy for a long period of time, causing a lot of inconvenience to the patient. So for this, we have more easier tests like this is a protea allergy Q panel. What we have is where a number of allergens are adsorbed onto a nitrocellulose membrane at regular intervals. And when the patient's serum is applied on it, and the color changes can be interpreted. This is a semi-quantitative analysis of specific IG. It includes a number of allergens, including inhalant and oral allergens. Then we also have the more specific on done with the fluorescent immunoassay technique, where there are a number of panels, and based on the history, medical history, the specific panel can be chosen, and this gives also a quantitative value of specific IgE. So it enables you to pick out the specific allergens the patient can avoid in order to prevent the condition from occurring. Then total IgG, they now they say, especially the IgG4 subclass, is produced in response to any food that the patient cannot digest or cannot tolerate, usually due to increases due to basophil histamine release, and it is more seen in cases of food allergy. So we have the food print technology here, which is again detects the IgG antibodies through the ELISA-based technology, and a number of food allergens, about 250 of them, are absorbed onto a nitrocellulase glass slide, and the patient's serum can be tested against which it can be identified. And what we produce is a multi-page document which shows, which gives you the category of the different foods the patient may be tolerant to or may be sensitive to. And there are two of them. One includes both the Indian and continental food, and the other one includes just the Indian foods. So all this we are doing at our reference laboratory in Bangalore. This is the largest reference laboratory for Dr. Lal Path in south of India, and we cater to the entire southern part of India, spread across 12,000 square feet. And we have this was a pre-existing lab to which we have added many more departments, which include histopathology, immunohistochemistry, flow cytometry, cytogenetics, and genetics, to name a few of them. And we do a lot of allergy testing here as well. We are NABL accredited, and we maintain the highest quality standards. So over to Mrs. Srimati, who will give us little more insight on food allergies and its prevalence in the current scenario. Thank you so much. Alka, would you like to introduce Ms. Srimati?
Yeah. So, good evening, everyone. So, I'll welcome our next speaker, Mrs. Srimati Venkataraman. She's a visiting consultant, clinician, dietitian at Trustwell Hospitals and Dr. Digest Clinic. She's a founder of Mithara Thara, Eat to Live, consultant nutritionist, DEBRA India, Center for Human Genetics, Bangalore. She's an executive director at Dysphagia India. Mrs. Srimati has 19 plus years of experience in clinical dietetics. She has done her master level specialization in diet in health and disease from Cal State Northridge and Seattle Pacific University, and PG DND certificate course in community nutrition and sustainability development from IGNO, and CDs, Certified Diabetes Educator, UK International. And she have publications under her umbrella, textbook Nutrition and Biochemistry for Nurses by Reed Elsevier, textbook Nutrition for Nurses by Reed Elsevier 2019, Neuronutrition booklet 2017. So, ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alka, and hello, Dr. Priya. Good evening, everyone. And I'm going to talk about food intolerance, how it has helped me in my practice. I'm a gut health practitioner, so I use a lot of these food intolerance tests. And when there is some skin allergies, so then I do the food allergy test for my clients. Majority, I'm going to talk about food intolerance test today and how it can be interpreted as a nutritionist and a gut health practitioner, how we can solve by trying to understand from these tests, which will help the patients in different gastrointestinal diseases. So we can just see the left is Nanamal and the right is Papamal. The left, the Nanamal, is a 104-year-old who practices yoga, and she has won many awards. And the right is Papamal, who also won a Padma Shri last year, and she still practices farming at this age. And we want to know why health at any age. Is it a secret? There are traditionally where our ancestors have been very healthy. And what is the secret for their? It is not just living life till 100. It is how we live life. The quality of the life is most important. So because no one wants to be bedridden or dependent at any age, more so in the seniors. So being active and the quality of life is the most important. Kudos to these women who has been so active, who practices yoga, who teaches yoga, and Nanamal is not there anymore, but Papamal is still active, very active, and she farms still at this age and also helps the local farmers in farming, natural way of doing it. So let's find out what is all this, how come it is so good at their age. I think gut health, as Hippocrates said, and even in Ayurveda, it says that gut health, if you maintain your gut health, then your whole body is very much fine. So the secret of prevention of diseases at first is your lifestyle and the gut health. So you can see that any lifestyle, whether it is a smoker or even a drinker or anybody who's having these junk foods, have a lot of triggers, and then slowly it becomes as a leaky gut, where you can see that lot of the permeability of the intestine where the gut is. So there is a large intestine and the small intestine, as you're all professionals here. I'm not going to go into the physiology. So you can even see that whenever there is continuous assault on the gut through either smoking or alcohol, or through too much of junk food in the form of, it can be, it need not just be a burger or you're going to eat out. It can be a simple thing as a packet food. So you know that we use, just imagine your kitchen or where you go or to prepare a food with whichever gender you are, and you use more scissors nowadays than even cutting or opening. See, from morning opening a milk packet to even doing convenience food or ordering out and you're cutting something and taking it. So everything has become, because of the lifestyle, people are more aware because of this pandemic the last 2 years, that people do realize that we need to slow down, spend some time to prepare food and eat healthy at home, which is very important, and not just cut packets and have more convenience food. So when that happens, what happens is there is leaky gut, where there is a lot of translocation of bacteria from the wall and into the bloodstream. So that causes a lot of problems, causes sensitivities and intolerance even to your cereals like wheat, rice, millets, it can be anything. You have a lot of bloating and other things which I'm going to talk in the subsequent slides. This one, effect of NSAIDs, is that non-inflammatory substances where you take for painkillers. These NSAIDs also cause a lot of leaky gut. Chronic, coming back to this, so what the NSAIDs is that even this is just an anti-inflammatory medicine which you take, but imagine you are having an infection, a bacterial infection, and the doctor has prescribed an antibiotic, which may be a 3-day course, a 5-day course, or even a 1-week course. So what happens is, there are many studies that says that if you take an antibiotic, the gut microbiome, the microbiome is basically, we are more of bacteria than both good and bad, and the good bacteria is wiped off to so many, at least 20 to 30%. So when I take history for my clients who are suffering from these food intolerances, or it can be an IBS patient like a Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, or it could be an IBD where there would be functional disorders of the gut. So whatever it may be, when I talk to them, I take a long history. It takes about 40 to 45 minutes. Why it is so is, food is something very personal to everyone, and more so when every 100 miles we have a different cuisine in India. Diversity is our strength. So we need to respect what they have grown up with, what the South eats, the North doesn't eat. Even inside a state like Karnataka, what the urban Bangalore eats, the North Karnataka eats a different cereal. So you can see when even inside a state, when the food habits are completely different, more so it would be from state to state. So when I take a history, it would be like they would say that, oh, this person had atopic dermatitis, she has had skin conditions when she was young, and she would have taken antihistamines many years, or they would have been people with having gastric reflux and they would have been for years on antacids. So they would have prescribed, the doctor would have prescribed that for them. And when they take an antacid, they feel that, okay, there is no reflux anymore, or they get comfortable and they don't stop it. They even do it for months and years. So this all has an effect on the good bacteria in the gut. So we can't just take medicines, but we have to get to the root cause of what is causing all this chronic inflammation. So inflammation is basically a cause for many diseases, more so in gut issues. So this causes cancer, chronic inflammatory disorders, even cardiovascular diseases, and also neurological disorders. So what happens is, these inflammation also causes, the gut and the brain is connected through a vagus nerves, and they are always in constant communication. It is like a Wi-Fi. So there is a constant communication. If the signal is disrupted, there would be a lot of problems. So what you eat affects the way you feel. So food and mood are very much interrelated, and what you eat makes you feel whether you're feeling light, you're feeling active, you're able to do a lot of focus on the project which you have to finish within 2 days, or as a student, you're really able to think with a clear mind, where what you're studying is really absorbed like a sponge. So there are so many things which affects the way the brain works, and this has a close connection with what you eat. So, or what happens is, if you're not eating, if you're eating, you have bad food habits where you eat very late at night when the digestion is in a very slow phase, and you eat a very heavy meal at night and then go to bed. So what happens is, this causes a lot of bloating, a lot of gastrointestinal issues. You have gastric reflux, you have acidity, you have indigestion. And whenever a client comes to me, and in the clinic or online, when they talk to me, they'll say, "Ma'am, I have gastric issues." What do you mean by gastric issues? It is so general. So what happens is when you talk to them and take a detailed history, then only we come to know that there have been an antacids, history of antacids usage, there have been antibiotics which they would have taken, they would have been on years on antihistamines for their rhinitis, or to control some eczema, they would be on antihistamines or topical ointments, steroids. Everything has an effect on the gut. So mental health, stress, depression, mood swings, and anxiety is also related to what you eat, and also how the gut absorbs these macro and micronutrients. So gut is the trump card, which is everybody talks about immunity. More so now, again, there is a scare in front of our door, one more variant. So people are very anxious for the past 2 years, and still it is not gone, and fresh things are coming up. So what happens is everybody wants to have the best immunity. Excellent, yes. But the gut immunity, you keep your gut healthy. 70% of the immunity is from your gut. So the community of bacteria in your intestine is like an individual identity card. So when you read in the online, in the social media, and also when you think that, okay, my neighbor or somebody is talking in the metro and they say that, okay, I'm going to avoid wheat, I'm going to avoid rice, I'm going to avoid this, it doesn't mean that it is going to suit you, whether you need to follow that or not. Why I'm saying this is, when they say an individual identity card, what gut bacteria you have, which is about trillions and trillions of cells in your gut and also your skin, it not only affects the gut health, not only affects your brain, your mood, it also affects your skin. That is why you have vitiligo, you have eczema, you have psoriasis. So there are so many things. So if that means there is an underlying issue in the gut, which is also showing on the skin. But there are also like a food allergy, which is immunity dominated, which is IgE, which is basically immune response that has been triggered. It can be due to dust mites, it can be due to your dog hair, it can be due to cat hair, it can be the dust mites that is there in your pillow or in your bed, or it can be anything, horse dander, where you would have gone for a horse riding class with taking your kid to it and she would have got an allergy rash. So it can be either an IgE, but even the IgG, which is your intolerance, food intolerance, shows in your skin. So the psoriasis, the eczema, all this is all IgG, because this is from the gut, the intolerance. So it is an individual identity card, is because what you have, your sibling is completely different. It is like your unique Aadhaar. It is like your fingerprint. What you have, your sister, your brother, your sibling, your parents, it can be the same sibling, but it will be different. That is why they say it is an individual identity card. The same, even they have found out that identical twins have different gut microbiome. It is not the same. So you can see how unique, how individual your gut microbiome is with those trillions of cells. That is, so it is unique. So what can be suitable for one cannot be suitable for you. So you need to know what is affecting you, and that is why they do these intolerance test or allergy test, because they need to find out for you, because you are unique and we need to customize it for that. More so, the personalized, customized diet charts and monitoring has to be done, which is very important for you to heal the gut. Now, trillions of bacteria, up to 1,000 different bacteria species is there in our gut. About approximately 1 to 2 kilos is the weight of gut microbiota, which is huge, trillions of cells that is there. So the gut-brain axis, so these small the loops that is there, all these are connected through a vagus nerve, okay, and directly to the brain. That is why you feel when you eat, when you feel satiety, which means fullness, and it says you go to a buffet and then you start eating different things, and then you come to the dessert, and then you want to eat all the 10 varieties, but just by 2 varieties, you're completely full. The gulab jamun and the ice cream is calling you, but you're already full with the tiramisu and the mousse, the chocolate mousse, because you wanted to taste it. So, but you can't eat it, you're so full. So the signal that is there, that goes from the gut, that you're full, from your gut to the brain, saying that stop eating, you're too full, you're going to throw up. So all these are signals that travels. Otherwise, you feel so thirsty in a summer, and you said that, no, I need to drink that tender coconut water or go for an aerated drink because you're thinking that, no, I'm too thirsty. All these signals are traveling, whether you're hungry, you're full, you're thirsty, you feel like throwing up, everything in that signal goes to the brain. So they are connected all the time, like your Wi-Fi and your cell phone. Gut. Over 90% of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut. Serotonin is a feel-good hormone. So you can see all those neurons, the continuous talking between them. So find the source of the problem. So what happens is, when there is a leaky gut, it means that there are a lot of dysbiosis. Basically, there are bad bacteria or the pathogens that is there, that is going to affect the way you digest, the way you absorb, the way you feel, the way your mood. All these are because of the way your leaky gut, so your history. So when we talk about, when I told you the chronic antibiotic or the NSAID use, we talk about mercury fillings or heavy metals. Maybe there are a lot of people who are taking alternative medicine. I'm not saying all alternative medicines are bad. It is, yes, very important, because Ayurveda also believes that gut is the source of all diseases. So it is important that you go to a qualified practitioner, and also the source of your medicine, whichever type of therapy you're following, whether it is the English way of doing it, or whether it is allopathy, that is the English way, or your Ayurveda or homeopathy or Siddha or Unani. It can be anything. So it depends upon the way where you source those medicines. Are you able to understand the quality doesn't have metals in your medicine? So the mercury fillings or heavy metals also causes problems. So you need to understand where you're taking your medicines, or who you are going for consultation. Traumatic brain injury, because that causes a lot of problems in feeding as well as the way they absorb nutrients. Chemotherapy, radiation treatments in head and neck cancer, it can be your stomach cancer, pancreatic cancer, it can be any cancer. All this has a lot of effect on the way the gut becomes dysbiotic, or how the chemo and the radiation is a lot of things that happens where you have a lot of mouth sores, you have where you can't have, they even have mucositis, it is called, so much dry throat, nausea, vomiting. You can't even put 1 spoon of food post radiation or post chemo. So it affects a lot of their body, and more so the gut, and there is a lot of problems. Cesarean birth, it has been found by many studies that if the baby is delivered naturally, they have better gut health, good microbes, than cesarean birth, where they are taken through the cesarean section. But if they have a normal delivery through the vagina, then what happens? They have better gut microbes. So that is why natural birth is preferred. Gut dysbiosis means that there are more bad bacteria or pathogens in your gut compared to the beneficial bacteria or the good bacteria. Hormonal imbalance is a big term nowadays, because every 4th patient I see is a PCOD or a PCOS. So polycystic ovaries is very common nowadays. So healing through food is what I do. And it is very important that you understand their food intolerance through these tests, so we can understand why they are having these problems. And this hormonal imbalance is also caused through gut dysbiosis. Chronic inflammation, your CPR, when they do the CPR, the test, you can see there is an underlying inflammation which causes a lot of cardiac issues. It can cause cancers, it can cause neuropathies, it can cause various other neuro issues, and also vitamin and nutrient deficiencies. When the client comes to me, I always do a nutrient deficiency panel, because vitamin D, calcium, and also other iron, anemic. I think you would have all seen day before yesterday, National Family Health Survey 5 was published by the government of India, where it says anemia has worsened in this past 2 years. So NFHS 5, and there is also state-wise reports, so you can see where you are from. And the India-wise, the thing is, you can see that anemia is very, very common, and it has increased in the population. So I do my nutrient deficiency panel. So your vitamin D, your calcium, iron profile, and also these other B12 or many B complex vitamin, magnesium, zinc, and other things. So what I'm saying is, even those nutrient deficiencies, vitamin D is also considered as an hormone and not just a vitamin. Vitamin D is involved in the metabolism of how you digest. Metabolism is basically how you digest and burn your food, so that those micronutrients and the macronutrients can be absorbed effectively, so you have good gut health and good optimal health for your well-being. So all these things are compromised if you have a leaky gut. Your diet can be depending upon the food intolerance test. We tell them whether to avoid gluten, whether to avoid nightshades is basically like brinjal and some variations of potatoes where they grow more at night. That's why it's called as nightshades. Pro-inflammatory foods like sugar, maida, then we try to ask them to avoid too much salt, all these also. So depending upon these things, so depending upon your CRP, are you an inflammatory, we give an anti-inflammatory diet. And they're also omega-6. So what is it is? Omega-3, omega-6. These are two ratios which should be in a good 10:1. So what happens is, the omega-3 are the good things that you have to eat. It can be from walnuts, almonds, and other things. The inflammatory are in the industrial seed oils. So when you take these clear looking oils that is there in the shelves, it can be from any source. What happens is they bleach it with chemicals, and to increase the shelf life, it undergoes many processes. So this causes, these are also pro-inflammatory, more in omega-6, which is going to cause more inflammation in the body. That is why we also look at the blood tests and then tell them to follow what diet, and also tell them what to eat in a good way to make sure that their inflammation comes down. They don't have these pains. Some will have triggering of migraine, some will have skin issues, some will have a lot of gastrointestinal issues like diarrhea, constipation. Some will have a mixed, some days they'll have constipation, some days they'll have diarrhea. So it's called IBS-M, it's called irritable bowel syndrome M. So there are a lot of functional disorders of the gut which is due to these leaky guts. Now, environmental toxins, it can be where you're living, where there would be your air quality in your state might not be right, or it could be the AC which you're sitting under more than 8 hours in your workplace, or you're in summer, more so you're working from home and you're under an AC and you've not cleaned your AC duct for years. From the AC vent. So all these cause sleep deprivation is a big thing. Why it is so is sleep. It is called the circadian rhythm. The body functions according to the sunrise and the sunset. That is why even in Ayurveda, or they say that there are certain way of life in India where they don't eat after sunset. Everything has tradition which is good to be followed, because your digestive juices are less after sunset. So, but sadly, in this fast-paced life, we have forgotten the way to eat, or everything has become a convenience, or maybe because of your work routine, you reach home late at night and you have a heavy meal by 9:30, 10:30, sometimes 11. All this adds up to your inflammation and also your gastrointestinal issues. Alcohol, I already pointed out. Chronic stress, people are completely stressed because of the pandemic, or it can be family issues, it can be economical, it can be so many issues that would be there. And liver toxicity is also there because of these heavy metals or alternative things which you're taking. Or even for your information, when they say that maybe when the second wave was there, everybody was talking about immunity, people were just popping vitamin C pills, or they were taking different things continuously. That is not right, because vitamin C, you need to know, you can't take just a citric acid, which can be in a form of a pill or a sachet with powder, which can cause liver toxicity, or it can be any other metal which would be mixed. I'm not talking only about vitamin C, it could be different vitamins or minerals, or whichever things, anti-aging things which you're popping. So please be aware, read the nutrition label, read what is there in it, and then take a informed decision, consult your doctor, a medical professional, and then take those supplements, and not just continuously do it. Now, cause and treat blood-brain barrier breakdown, fire in the brain. So there will be mild inflammation which can cause these triggers. People get cramps, they get stomach bloating, they also get low migraine. Some people get one-sided headache all the time. So this intestinal inflammation, so it gets compromised, and because of this, the food sensitivity and the infection is seen. Culprits of intestinal permeability, I told you about dysbiosis, and there is an infection, inflammation, nutritional insufficiency or a deficiency, poor dietary choices. All this causes epithelial damage. So there is epithelial in the gut. The small intestine is a few meters. It's huge. So, and then there is the large intestine, the small intestine. What happens is these epithelial cells which are lining the gut, so the gut mucosa, that becomes damaged, and then what happens is you see this, it all leaks. Elevated toxin levels are there. The immune becomes, there is a dysbiosis, more bad bacteria goes into the bloodstream and into the your gut, and there is toxins, and then the antigens are formed from. So when you eat a particular substance like a wheat, or it can be even some spices in some cases, that happens is you get cramps, you get bloating, you have to run to the restroom. Within half an hour of taking it, you have severe headaches because of this. So all this causes systemic disease. Leaky gut. So what happens is blood-brain barrier that is breached. So this is the bad bacteria that is going to talk to the brain. Autoimmune diseases have become more because your own immune system is attacking your own body. So you get a lot of autoimmune diseases, and there is malabsorption. So whatever you eat, you may have the best intention of taking a seasonal fruit, buying a seasonal fruit. You may be eating seasonal vegetables. You may be eating, thinking that, oh, this is very good for my health, exotic vegetables. Some says, ma'am, I take olive oil because I heard that it is very good. We use only olive oil at home. Or they may spend so much money for that type of oil. They may spend so much money for that particular blueberries to put it in their shakes. So these are expensive. They might take about almonds, walnuts, dry fruits, which are quite expensive. Not everybody can afford it. So, but are they absorbing it? You have the good intentions of eating good, but are you absorbing it? Because of the leaky gut, there will be, you're not absorbing the nutrients. That is why you get these nutrient deficiencies, and these low-lying inflammations also causes problems. Healthy foods that can cause havoc for the health. So what happens is, see, look at this. Respiratory system. So it is not, if your gut is affected, your whole body is affected. You'll get neurological symptoms. They have found that even Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, the gut changes, the gut microbiome changes in the good bacteria. There is a change, there is a diversity. So what the diversity is encouraged not only in the population but in the gut. not just one species, good species of various bacteria should be there. So the more diverse of good bacteria you have, the better your health is going to be. And then you get these, if you're having this biosis and you have bad bacteria, they have found that the Parkinson's, the first tremor that starts as your external symptom, few years ago, they see it in the gut. The external symptom starts only after a few years, but before that, your gut microbiome changes are there. More so for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, many neurodiseases is connected the way you keep your gut healthy. Respiratory systems and also circulatory symptoms, GI symptoms, skin, as I told you, joint, they will have osteoarthritis, they will have inflammatory rheumatoid arthritis, which is autoimmune, they will have joint pains, there will be some people have systemic pains where low-lying, always their body will be in some low-grade pain, they will not know. It is all because of gut dysbiosis. Adverse reaction to food. So as Dr. Priya said, it is immune mediated. The food allergies, classic allergy reactions. A picture was shown where there will be hives, there will be sudden rashes that you would get, which would disappear after some few hours. Sometimes it will be days. Sometimes it will be only after a few hours it can come. So it can be a peanut allergy. Some peanut allergy is so life-threatening, anaphylaxis shock it is called, where it chokes and then people are not able to breathe. So that is what it is. So it can be immune-mediated or it can be non-immune mediated, which can be an enzyme deficiency like a lactase, which will not be there. So you will not be able to tolerate milk. That is why you get lactose intolerance. Some people, when they drink milk, they get bloating. They have to go to the restroom within half an hour, 45 minutes. So that is an enzyme deficiency. Or it can be different non-immune related, which can cause all these food intolerances, which is IgG. Now, many issues, it can have allergy to food or it can be intolerance to food. So it depends upon your age. It can be also the onset of symptoms. It can be in skin, it can be in digestion. These are all allergy related. Or it can be due to digestion. It can be also in your skin. There will be psoriasis. There would be also onset of symptoms. It can be delayed. It can be immediate. And also depends on your age. And it is important that you eat right. You might be thinking the real scenario. You might be thinking, I'm completely fine. I don't have, but you never know. Constipation is also a disorder, because what happens is it is important that when you eat something, you need to digest it and absorb the macro and the micronutrients so that you will have optimal health. Because if you are not absorbing iron, for example, you will be anemic. If you are anemic, you will feel completely tired in the evening sometimes, or you will be fatigued, is extreme tiredness where you will not be able to do some things. So throughout the day, you'll feel like going and lying down. You won't have that much energy. You won't have that much enthusiasm to do a housework, a project, a study if you're a student. So there are so many things, but actually your gut is slowly leaking and you're not absorbing the nutrients which you're supposed to absorb. And then what happens? What you're eating is not getting absorbed and you have a nutrient deficiency, a low-grade inflammation, which is going to have a consequence on your skin, your immunity. Some mothers will come and ask, ma'am, my boy or my girl always falls sick. Always there is cold, there is infection, or there would be an adult saying that I get the urinary infection very easily, or there would be some people say that I have allergy rhinitis and they keep doing this. So what happens? You get a mark over there, which is called the rhinitis nose. So there are so many things. You might be thinking you're fine. So if you have constipation, your digestion, absorption, the way you eat, and elimination. So you should not have constipation. That is very important. So excretion is also very important. So the body should work as a well-oiled machine. So the nutrients are absorbed, the hormones are well and balanced. So your life cycle, whichever life cycle you have, you can be, it can be a toddler, it can be an infant where the growth should be accelerated. You will be in an adolescent or a puberty stage where the growth, you'll shoot up in height, you will put on more muscles because you are in that stage. Or you can be in a reproductive phase where you're married, you will be in that reproductive phase where your fertility, that is also affected by gut. So PCOD, the hormonal imbalance which would be there, which would cause facial hair, your periods would not be regular. So you have to go and see the gynecologist to pop pills. So there are so many things you might not relate it to the gut. So, but everything is gut related. So the path to gut health is tested, analyze the history, get the test done, suggest elimination diet, use the diet guide, look at the patient reports. That is why we give a customized diet plan. The elimination diet is only for about 6 to 8 weeks. Suppose you're allergic to, say, a spice like a jeera, or you're allergic to almonds, or you're allergic to walnuts, or you're allergic to peas, sometimes amaranth, sometimes palak, sometimes. So there would be a different test, I would talk about it. This is not like elimination where for the rest of your life you have to eliminate it. It is only where there would be a few weeks which we tell you to avoid, and then slowly everything would be reintroduced to you in your diet. Then we follow the food diary, see how your gastrointestinal symptoms are, customize the diet chart based on your food intolerance report, which suppose if I give it to Lalpat, they give me very clearly like a green, a yellow and a red. So the patient can also understand it very clearly. If it is red, the first would be the red, then yellow, then green. So they would know what are all the intolerance that they are having. So they will know that they have to avoid those things. But you need to go to a qualified dietitian or a nutritionist. Why? Because suppose if I say that the report comes as you're allergic to wheat, or you're allergic to wheat, you will only say, okay, I'm going to avoid chapati and brown bread. No, it is there in biscuits, it is there in rusk, it is there in your breadcrumbs where they would have put it. There would be wheat in your sauce, there would be used it as a thickening agent. Your maida, your vermicelli, your sevia, your rava, your suji, all these are wheat. So we will know what are all wheat. For you as a lay person, it can be only a chapati, but a maida, a vermicelli, everything is from wheat. Even your rava, your suji is from wheat. And we will also know how they add it as a thickening agent in different things. So you might be thinking, okay, I go to a test lab, get it done. I see the red. What is there? The red I have to avoid. Yellow, yes, I have to just keep it to the bare minimum. And green, yes, I can eat it. But you will not know what is there in the red. So suppose even that it comes as cow's milk, you're intolerant to. You might be thinking, I'm going to only avoid milk. But you will not know there are in a biscuit. Please read your nutrition label. You take the nutrition label. The maximum what you're going to do when you buy a bread or a milk or a curd, whatever you're going to buy. So you're going to look at it and see the expiry date or best buy date. Best to buy date or the expiry date. Otherwise, you're going to go at home and get it nicely from your spouse, whichever the gender it may be. So what happens is, oh my God, that is the only thing you're going to see. But if it is, suppose if it comes as a cow's milk allergy, you're allergic to cow's milk, it is not just your doodh that is you're going to avoid. It should be your paneer. It could be some biscuits have, you please take it and see, it will say milk solids. So that you will be eating your biscuit with your green tea or your chai with almond milk or a peanut milk or a coconut milk, thinking that, oh, I'm fine now, I'm avoiding cow's milk. You're shelling more out of your pocket by buying your almond milk or your Some even buy camel milk. It is available online. Okay. So you're spending so much money, but your symptoms are still there. That is because of your tea, that the biscuit that you're dunking in your chai, or your coffee with your alternative milk. So it is important that you consult a qualified person, dietitian or nutritionist, who will know what foods has what and what intolerance, and so it is not just one. So when I say cow's milk, I have to give them at least 10-15 foods, more than that, on depending upon their food habits, or do not avoid or look for these things, so that you don't go into back to cramps or diarrhea or constipation. So it's important that a customized diet chart and monitoring is done. Check for improvement. Follow-ups are important. Check for improvement in health, and slowly reintroduce the eliminated food. That is how we do it. Now, causes of food intolerance: absence of an enzyme like lactase that is needed to fully digest a food. That is why lactose intolerance, because you are deficient of an enzyme lactase, you're not able to digest the food. That is why you have a lactose intolerance, which is what is a common example of an absence. Irritable bowel syndrome, I can talk for a few hours on this. So this is a chronic condition. Chronic, it is for a long time. Can cause cramping, constipation, diarrhea. In many of my IBS, I always rely on this food intolerance test, and that is how I heal the gut through food. And this test helps me a lot with my clients. Sensitivity to food additives, for example, sulfites would be used to preserve the dried fruit, canned goods. You might be thinking that, let me tell you, a tomato sauce, a ketchup, which you just, your child or yourself cannot eat without a tomato ketchup or a sauce. There are a lot of adults who use tomato ketchup or a sauce. Many of us use. It's so yummy. And you can see the ads, that beautiful red color, and you'll never know that there are so many food additives that is going to cause those intolerances, low-grade inflammation that is out there. So many people fall for these ads which says that you can even take it in your chapati, you don't need your vegetables, you just roll it with all those pastes. And then even for your sandwich, which you have, everything is squeezed out of a bottle or cut out of a packet. Nowadays, you don't have those chutneys. So you get all these squeezable bottles where you put it in the sandwich, your pudina and your thing. It comes in a green and a cream color also. Tastes yummy, definitely. And then these are all some of these additives that is used, preservatives that is used, or even your taste maker in your noodles, which cause those low-grade inflammation. It can cause bloating in some, it can cause constipation or diarrhea in some. So, or it can even trigger asthma attacks in sensitive people. Recurring stress, psychological factors, this is not very understood, but in many IBS patients, like Crohn's or people who go for the diarrhea, that is called stress-related diarrhea, where even there, before an exam, your child might be using the restroom very often. Before a tournament, a sports person may be feeling those cramps. Before an important interview, before you're facing for that review with your boss. So many things are there. So your gut and the mind is completely connected. So many studies out there that says that you keep your gut healthy, you prevent diseases, and also you feel. There are a lot of people who think there is brain fog. Oh my God, I really want to finish this project today. And that is the time I'm unable to concentrate. You would just have only 24 hours to give that important presentation to your group. And this is what happens. So it is important that what you eat has such an influence. So need to know your intolerance. Celiac has some features of a true food allergy, but because it involves the immune system, it also, this is more immune related, but also has gastrointestinal symptoms where they have, but it is life-threatening in many people. So everybody need not avoid gluten. You need to go test it. Celiac is completely a different test, and intolerance is completely a different test. That is why you need to have the correct test done for you and approach a professional. This is the food intolerance test, which I do it for many of my clients in this, and it's called the food intolerance 220 foods are tested, from dairy, fish, seafood, fruits. You will be surprised how many fruits people are intolerant to. Grains, it can be rice, it can be millets, it can be wheat, not just only wheat. There are many people allergic to many millets also. Sometimes even rice, it comes as a intolerant. So you need to know. There one incident which I want to tell you was, there was a person who was a middle-aged and she was suffering from gastrointestinal issues. And she used to keep taking jeera water to make it go away, the bloating and all that. But I said, let us do it scientifically, because she thought that let me avoid just milk and wheat and I will be fine. And she was doing it for more than 5 years, but she was suffering from more than 10 years. And she thought she was reading all this milk and wheat, and if I avoid. So whenever she gets bloating or something, she used to keep drinking jeera water, only eating curd rice and just drinking. So then what happened, we found out when this intolerance test was done, she was allergic to cumin seeds, which is jeera. She was intolerant to this. So the more she was drinking it, the more she was going to the restroom. And then when she found out, and we had a scientific basis, because you need to know what you are intolerant to so we can avoid. It's not lifelong. We are reintroducing back to you, and this is how it is done. Meats, vegetables, and also different foods. So there are 220 elements in that. There are different studies, last 2 slides, studies published which says that IgG food antibody guided elimination rotation diet was more effective than a FODMAP diet and control diet in the treatment of women with mixed IBS. Mixed IBS is basically IBS-M, where it's not just constipation or diarrhea, it is mixed. Some days they'll have constipation, some days they'll have diarrhea, completely confused what to eat and what to avoid. So this is a very recent study, September 2021, Journal of Clinical Medicine. Somebody shared it with me. Thank you so much for that. And then I thought, oh, this would be very useful, and I was very happy to receive this paper. And when I read the whole thing, it really understood that why IgG food antibody tests had to be done and not just doing the thing. So it's a very recent paper. This was the criteria of the study. So then a nutritional intervention was done, and they found that they had that when they did the IgG and other things, so they were able to do against food antigens are elevated in this patients with Crohn's disease. They had, when you did this elimination diet based upon this, significant improvement was seen, observed in patients eliminating this food which they were intolerant to, which came in the red, to which they were found to exhibit sensitivity. 48% of patients had nutritional intervention, and because of the circulating IgG antibodies, they were found that the stool also improved, and their stomach cramps, their bloating, everything improved. So there are several studies which says that you have to do food intolerance, a customized diet chart, reintroduction, and monitoring. There was one more diet intervention study. So it was published in 2010. So clinical relevance of IgG antibodies against food antigens in Crohn's disease. This was also a double-blind cross-diet study, and the diet intervention based on this food intolerance test, and patients improved significantly. So it is very important that you do a scientific way of seeing things, doing the intolerance test, and then doing it. This has helped me in a lot of my clients. I will be very happy to take questions if we have time. Alka, over to you and Dr. Priya. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for such an insightful presentation. Dr. Priya, you would like to add something?
Yeah, so very nice presentation, Mrs. Srimati. It was indeed nice. So I wanted to also add that for the benefit of there may be practitioners who are also attending this talk, we also have a couple of tests here which we have found an increased demand, especially post-COVID. I also came across papers where post-COVID there were a lot of patients coming with gut issues, and these were also in turn linked to psychiatric issues as well. Patients with gut issues post-COVID were having more psychiatric symptoms. This was one paper I came across. So that is besides, we are also doing fecal elastase and fecal calprotectin levels, which is fecal calprotectin is very useful in differentiating IBS from IBD. So I think you may want to know that is, and fecal elastase as well to identify pancreatic health. And we also have a stomach health panel, which is a combination of pepsinogen and gastrin hormone levels along with H. pylori antibody levels. So these are some tests that we have at Lalpath, which may be useful and beneficial to the dietitians and gastro specialists attending this session. So I think there are some questions. Over to you, Alka. Would you want to?
Yes, ma'am. So the question is for Ms. Srimati. Is skin pigmentation also related to gut?
So it is not just the pigmentation. So some people would have like freckles and all that. That can be even
Okay.
post pregnancy. They would have those freckles, and for some time it would be there for a long time. But I have found that for acne, if I give them an anti-inflammatory diet and give them a lot of things, the acne improves a lot from the gut. So the skin pigmentation as such is not because, so it can be due to hormones also, but acne, your psoriasis, your eczema, yes, is related to the gut, including vitiligo.
Okay.
Almost many patients of mine have a lot of skin issues, and when I treated the gut and also given some things, it has helped a lot in their acne or even eczema and definitely acne.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, next question is, can drinking beer is cause of food intolerance?
Yeah, Syed, hi. Beer is okay. I think it's okay, but it is empty calories. So if you're looking for weight loss, no, but it is not related to gut. But anything in moderation is the best. I think anything excess will cause weight gain and also cause a lot of other issues. But beer as such is just fermented, yes, but it's nothing like saying that it's going to cause gut dysbiosis, no. But moderation is the key. I think
Thanks, ma'am.
that helps you to go on a Saturday side.
Okay. So, there is one another question. Yogurt, which can be taken by children, is good to health.
Yogurt is
I mean, like,
yeah,
yeah, yogurt is good
extremely good.
for children.
Yeah, its yogurt
Okay.
is extremely good for children, adults, and seniors at home. It is a panacea for many diseases. It also depends on, I can also talk about yogurt for 1 hour, because why I'm saying is yogurt depends. So if you're having a flavored yogurt, there are many things that says that acidity regulator, they would say that so 131, 236, all these are additives. So it all depends on what type of yogurt you're taking. If it is a fresh yogurt at home and if you're going to do it, it is extremely good. Okay, so there is no problem at all. But if you're buying a flavored yogurt or a packet yogurt or anything, that is going to cause a lot of problems. So depends upon the sensitivity. I'm not saying don't buy a flavored yogurt as long as it is good, but yogurt bottom line is very good, more so buttermilk.
Okay, thank you. And the question is for Dr. Priya. Which test is more advantageous, food intolerance or IgE mediated allergy panels, or any single parameter?
Yeah, so basically, I think the patient has to be evaluated by the clinician, and a complete history would have to be taken. The food intolerance panel gives you about, like Dr. Mrs. Srimati said, 220 allergens are detected in that. And IG specific panels, we have a number of panels which just include inhalant allergies, which include certain food allergies. There are a whole lot of them. I showed some of them to you. If I could go back to those slides,
Will
if
take
you
time.
don't mind. Uh,
It's a bit slow.
So there are a number of panels that you could choose from. It mainly depends upon the symptoms that you have, and you have to be evaluated by the clinician so that they can decide for you which of the panels suits you more. I think it will take a long time. So
Uh,
there are specific panels which you can opt for.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So, ma'am, there are no further questions, so we can end the session here. First, I would like to thank you to our speakers, Dr. Priya and Ms. Srimati, for your interesting presentations. Thanks everyone for joining the session.
Just
Yes,
before
ma'am.
we end, I think there is also somebody asking for a connect to Dr. Lal Path Labs.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I have given my number, so I'll
Yes.
connect with you
You
after
could
this.
you could
Yeah.
also probably share email ID also.
Yes.
Ranjini is a very close friend of mine. Yes, I will also help her. Nice to see you here, Ranjini. And definitely, I'll make sure that she gets it because this test has really helped in my clients. So definitely, Alka, I would also connect with her.
Okay. So, ma'am, one more question. His hirsutism also related to gut?
Which one, Alka?
Hirsutism.
Yes,
Hirsutism.
hirsutism is basically
Hirsutism.
male, where the male hormones are more. So what happens is hirsutism is basically facial hair in women. So when there is more facial hair in women, that is because of a hormonal imbalance, and the hormonal imbalance which rise in polycystic ovaries. That also in these people, when we do this panel for, there are PCOS panel also in that, but I do it for my PCOS people. Yes, it is also where you can see the hormonal imbalance can also be corrected through proper eating. It is a lifestyle condition. The PCOS is definitely a lifestyle condition. It's not just medical. Yes, it is. If you lose your weight, if you exercise, the hormones gets reset very well, and then all these hirsutism, which is very, very, what do you say, sensitive as girls and adolescents and women. So yes, it is related to the gut also, and a lifestyle disease. So you need to lose your weight. So please go to the qualified dietitian or a nutritionist to help you out.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you
So,
for the opportunity. Thank you all for patient listening.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
thank you all. Thank you.
Bye.